So it looks like when Donald Trump said that Mexico would be paying for his magnificent, big, beautiful border wall, he was defining Mexico in an odd way, because it's coming out right now that his transition team has signaled to congressional Republican leaders that his preference is to fund the border wall through the appropriations process as soon as April, according to House Republican officials. There will be more to that. But interesting that he says Mexico and he means Congress. And by the way, when he means Congress, he means tax revenue, which means he means you. You will be paying for his border wall, not some random people in Mexico. Weird that he made this statement and said it over and over and over again, and it turns out not to be true. And it turns out not to be true in a particularly egregious economic fashion, because we're going to have to pay for something that could cost anywhere between $8 and $40 billion. And look, I could go through all of these quotes where he says that Mexico is going to pay for it, and I will make Mexico pay for that wall, he said in June 2015. Mexico is going to pay for the wall, he told Sean Hannity during a town hall in February of 2016. Speaking in Mexico, by the way, last August, saying Mexico will pay for the wall. They don't know it yet, but they're going to pay for the wall. He kept saying it and saying it. Do you think his supporters are going to care? Are his supporters going to have a little bit of like a moment where they're like, wait, I know I heard something about Mexico there, and now I'm paying for it for some reason. Why do I have to pay for billions of dollars worth of unnecessary wall? Probably not. I think they'll be able to work through that. Perhaps more interesting than the fact that we're going to be footing that bill for that magnificently expensive border wall. Also, it might not be a wall. So it both won't be Mexican, and it might not be a wall. Maybe it'll be on the northern border, it turns out. So it looks like the wall is actually going to involve fencing and other technology along the southern border. Which means, by the way, that this is actually both good and bad news. And so I anticipate my detractors giving me a lot of credit for saying that this is good news to some extent coming out of the Trump administration. Because when they say fencing and other technology, what they mean is roughly akin to what we already have on portions of the southern border. Right now, we have border fences. Politicians on both the left and the right at various points have supported those border fences. Seems crazy. And so they're there for hundreds of miles, and we have drones, that's the technology, and cameras and all of that. We have patrols. We've always had security on the southern border. He was promising a gigantic, big, beautiful wall. A great wall. A impenetrable, physical, tall, powerful, beautiful southern border wall. He is 100% thinking about penises when he says that. But he said it was going to be a physical wall, now it's not going to be a physical wall, which, look, I prefer, of course, because technology and fencing, if it's going to be built, is far cheaper, and I would prefer that we not bankrupt our country on building a China-style Great Wall for a couple of thousand miles along our southern border. And again, as I said, he says it would cost somewhere between $8 and $10 billion. But independent estimates have put it as high as $40 billion because, again, and I have to keep reminding people of this, it's easy to imagine that this wall is just going to be at the southern border of some Texan's backyard. But it's not. These are not cutting through towns in a lot of places. These are, in some cases, cutting through extremely inhospitable territory that's not linked to anything by infrastructure or roads. It's not like you just take something from Home Depot and then you turn and you plop up a gigantic wall there. These are places that trucks can't get to in many cases, which means that you're not simply going to put stuff down there. You have to actually build power lines and roads, thousands of miles of roads. I don't think most people have any idea how extensive this project would actually be, although now it looks like, at least by the fact that it'll be a fence and huge sections will probably be, guarded by cameras and drones. It sounds like it'll be an expansion of what we were going to have anyway, and we already have in large part. It's still going to be incredibly expensive. It's still going to be, for the most part, useless because of the way that the drug war has produced demand in here. They're going to find other ways. And also, and we keep saying this, and I've been saying it since the very, very beginning, a wall is stupid so long as you can build tunnels. And they find tunnels all the time. So it doesn't matter. When he was talking about it, he kept saying, this is a wall, and not a wall that they can just climb over. I mean, he literally just thinks like a child. He thinks you put up a wall, and then they just walk up and they think, well, shucks, there's a wall there. I guess I'll just go back to Central America. That's not how that actually works. Anyway, look, it's good that it'll probably end up costing less money, although we'll have to see on that. It's going to be interesting to see how his followers adapt to the fact that his principal argument, his principal policy, is not going to be what he said it was. We'll see how they work through that.